So here's Kyle.
What was that face?
You were just like...
I've now deformed this hat, by the way. It is now actually Ian's head shaped.
Ian is making fun of my present wrapping for being too perfect, which I find amusing.
Look at this.
That looks really close. There's no way you're seeing anything clearly on that.
There's tape on the inside. Who does that?
Normal people who wrap presents correctly.
When my mom wraps presents
This
for
is
me.
wrong. I did this because I did it wrong.
No, this is beautiful by my standards. I'm having a ball. Technically, that's great Russian accent. Like, I am having a ball.
I am having ball.
Now we're just the count.
One ball. One ball.
You should also make it pointing straight up. I like it.
Yeah.
Didn't expect it to work that well. Okay. This is such a stupid hat.
Oh, that looks so unpleasant. No. Okay.
They actually generate electricity probably just by having Ian put his hat on him now.
Why is this happening?
Hey,
You don't have your present.
I don't. A close up on this special effect right here. This is how we cheat physics.
Now in 3D.
So we had two quick effects in this video that you probably didn't notice, and hopefully didn't notice because that was the point. First was this outdoor shot. It was really wet and rainy and nasty when we were actually filming. The shot's wide enough that you can't tell that anything is actually wet, but the sky looks all blown out, and even if it wasn't, it would look all gray and terrible. So I just wanted to replace it with a better looking sky so that it looked like a nice sunny day. So I did a basic sky replacement. You can find a full tutorial for them over on videocopilot.com, but in short, first I tracked the footage, which was easy enough because it doesn't really move too much and there are lots of nice little points that stand out on the house. And then once that was done, I made a Luma mat, which looks like this. So this was made basically just by increasing the contrast a lot using curves and making all of the dark areas super black, and then the white areas as white as can be. And I adjusted it just right so that the only white part really was the sky. There are a few extra pieces down here, but I made the sky fade out as it came down, so you never really saw it through any of these holes or anything. These stark black and white mats are extremely useful in lots of situations, and it's actually kind of what you're going for every time you create a mask or a mat of any kind in After Effects. I learned recently that that was basically how visual effects started, even back when film was a new thing, is that people would cover up part of the lens so that no light would come through, and it would actually leave just a blank black space on the film, and then they would cover up everything else except for that spot and film something different. And that's basically what we're doing now with computers. The white area is visible and the black area isn't, and you can see that theme through a lot of Adobe software and a lot of other softwares. Photoshop uses masks that work that way. And so throughout a whole lot of these behind-the-scenes videos, you'll notice that that's what I'm doing, because ultimately you want to get a clean Luma mat like this that you can then apply to the layer that you want to cut around. So with that mat in place, all I did was drag in an image of clouds that looked much nicer than the sky that I was dealing with, made it slightly bigger because it was going to be moving around, and then parented it to the null object that had the tracking data on it, and we get this much nicer looking sky. Next was this last gag here where Ian has decorated the entire house, or this little frame of it that you can see at least. And what we did here was add this big Christmas tree behind the table. That's not actually there. And you can kind of tell if you stare at it long enough, this scene flashes by so quickly that you probably didn't notice it was fake. If you look at it, you can kind of tell because it doesn't really fit with the lighting very well. But the alternative was setting up an entire actual tree and then taking it down for a 2-second shot, and we weren't going to do that. So this, again, was just a public domain Christmas tree image. I used the same LumaMat method in Photoshop to cut it out. The original had a white background. And then I placed it where I wanted in the shot, used curves and a couple of other color correction tools to make it blend into the scene better. I used a separate shape layer for a mask to cut around the table and the light and the chair where they overlapped the tree. And then I just used a gradient to add a little bit of a shadow to one side of it to help with the lighting as much as I could. All in all, it worked pretty well, and all the rest of the decorations Ethan just had in his house, so we set them up and made sure that Ian's hand never hit that side of the screen where the tree was going to be. So I didn't have to do any rotoscoping around him, which is great because that takes a long time. One final thing I did to it was add an effect called match grain. I don't have it on right now because it really slows the software down, but it's a nice final touch if you're adding solid objects into a shot. Especially if you have a camera like mine. Mine is older and still uses tape, actually. I'm gonna have to do a behind the scenes video on our equipment sometime because it's not impressive. But in After Effects, I can use match grain or just add grain if I want to do it manually, because sometimes the match grain automation doesn't work all that well, and add that to a solid object, and it just makes it look that much more like it's in the scene. Without it, the tree wouldn't have the film grain, even though everything else in the video did, and even though you probably wouldn't notice exactly what was wrong, it would still look off for some reason. It would look slightly fake. So it's just one nice final touch to make the whole scene look a little bit more believable.